Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to another review from the London Film Festival 2020. Today, we are going to be reviewing Wolfwalkers, the new animated film from Cartoon Saloon. Before we get into the film itself, I'm going to pass you over to Chris, that side of me.
This side, yes.
Every time.
I'll get onto a little bit about Wolfwalkers in a moment and why I'm still in mourning. Not because I've seen the film, but because I haven't seen the film. This is going to be a Tayte reviews. And
Chris, I'm going to say this now. I'm throwing spoilers in there immediately.
No.
I have to. It's the only way I can talk about this film.
I'm going to do the whole earphones out, then you talk about it and give me the thumbs up because I want to know nothing about this film. But before we get into talk about it in this film, we're going to go through socials. So once again, follow us, comment, share, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, because we want to hear your opinions on the London Film Festival films. And the best way to do that is to follow us on our social media links. You can follow us on Facebook at Cinema Savvy, Twitter at Cinema_Savvy. And if you would like to pick up any merch, any t-shirts that we do have a TeePublic link in the description down below. So please feel free to check those out too. This and One Night in Miami were the two films across London Film Festival that I was most looking forward to. I think this is the only animated film out of the entire film festival.
It is now the only animated film out of the entire film festival. They were meant to be having Soul, and they've decided that they just don't want to show it to anyone. I think they're still doing some screenings just in London, not even across the UK.
But it's Christmas Day, isn't it, on Disney+?
No. They're still doing limited screenings for London Film Festival, but you have to be in London and you had to go into a ticket ballot and stuff like that. And they weren't doing any press screenings for it. So I think it's a very confusing situation on Disney's part. They obviously don't want people to see the film that badly. And yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, but they've just announced this week they're going to be just giving it out for anyone who's got Disney+. No 25 plus quid extra just to watch it. It is just straight in Christmas Day present to all of you. Have a song about jazz. So
I mean, with this film in particular, though, so me and you are kind of the resident animated film guys on the channel. We love all kinds of animation. I will say that I haven't actually seen the other films that have been made by the studio. Song of the Sea, I think you said, and Book of Kells. Yeah,
Book of Kells and The Breadwinner. All three of the films that they have made so far have all been nominated for Best Animated Feature. And this one's it's going to follow suit. I don't think this is a very strong year for animation, to be fair.
For obvious reasons.
For very obvious reasons. Well, you say that, but I still think it's a very strong year for cinema. So I think
it's because we just haven't had all of the crap that we should have had in the summer has been pushed back to next year. So the stuff that we've had, you kind of have to cherry pick around it. So therefore you are going to have more, you are going to have better films, I guess, throughout the year. But this is one that I am absolutely gutted that I've missed, just because I'm a huge proponent of animation, especially traditional animation like this as well, the hand-drawn style. I'm sure some of it was digital as well. But it's a very unique, different kind of animation. And in a world of CGI and computer animated films, not knocking those by any stretch of the imagination, the things they can do with computer animated imagery is second to none, phenomenal, gorgeous. It can still tug at the heartstrings. It can still be everything you want an animated film to be. But it's just so nice having the option and seeing other kinds of animation and what other animation studios can do. I really do want to go back and watch the three other films that you've mentioned from this studio. In the past, they've, like my local cinemas and everything are never great with playing these films that are sort of these lesser known films, these more indie kind of films.
You will be very happy to hear. I know the cinemas are closing across the UK. Some are staying open during the weekends. This is meant to be getting a UK release. This is meant to be getting a UK release October 30th in cinemas. So I hope it comes to like cinemas across the UK and stuff like that, and it comes to ones near us, because I would happily go and see this again in cinema. But if not, then you have to wait till it comes out on Apple TV on December 11th, where it goes worldwide on Apple TV.
Right. So this is going to function kind of similar to a Q&A. I have actually I've just got done watching the trailer for this thing, having seen nothing about it apart from a poster or a still. And I've read a little bit about the concept and the plot from the BFI website as well. And that's as much prep as I have before this thing. I've seen the trailer. I'm like, yep, this is a film that I want to see. I kind of want to know nothing about, although I know that you said you've got to go into spoilers, but if you can give me a spoiler warning, and I guess a spoiler warning to the people at home when you get to that part.
Yes.
But I'm assuming you're going to start with like a spoiler-free section.
Yeah, I'll go into the spoiler-free stuff. I'm actually going to start with the animation itself, because the animation in this film is gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning. And we're always proponents for just different styles of animation or takes on that classical animation. I think both of us, between us, our favorite animated film of last year was Klaus. That was our favorite animated film of last year, and it had something different that the Disney films, the Pixar films, and everything else that was throwing in didn't have. I think I Lost My Body was the only one which actually had something else that was different. But last year was pretty bog standard for animation as far as the films were concerned. This film, and I haven't seen Secret of the Kells, but I've heard that film's animation style took off the idea of what would it look like if we animated stained glass. And this film's idea is, okay, what would it look like if we took all of those Celtic drawings, those tapestries that used to be made with woven Celtic tapestries and stuff like that? What would it happen if we animated that? And the film itself is beautiful. There are a lot of shots in the film where they show distant shots of the city. And it's very hard to describe, but the city is flat, and it just shows, like towns planning, they'll have literally a shape of a church with like a cross on top. They do that. It's completely 2D when they do the backgrounds, and then you've got the people in the foregrounds kind of animated, which looks a little bit more lifelike. But it's so fantastically put together. It's such a simple animation style, but it works so effectively, and it completely engross you into the film. You're immediately into that Celtic kind of mythology and that kind of idea that you're in Ireland dealing with those kind of Cromwellian times and everything like that. Another thing which I haven't seen in a very long time in animation is when they do the animals. You know how when you're learning how to draw things and drawing animals, they tell you to do circles, like a big circle at the front, a little circle at the back. They kept the circles in the drawings. The circles are still there, they're visible, and it's just, I don't know if it's like, because someone will go out there and say, oh, it's unpolished, they haven't completed the drawing and stuff like that. I like the rough edge given to it. I really like the rough edge given to it, because it makes the feel of the film feel rougher.
It also feels more personal. You can get a sense of the artist's skill and their personal touch into making that thing come to life and be animated on screen. It's why I always love when you see like the old school Disney animators, and obviously they polish it up with the Disney films, but where they've almost got the tracing paper and they're sort of like flipping it back and sort of like changing a little bit in between each cell. And it's almost like a flip book when it's done, when all the frames are together. I love seeing that.
The frame rate for the film isn't smooth. It's not completely like really fast frame rate. You can like not see like the clicks between the frames and stuff like that. It's a little bit slower, so you can actually see the animation. You can actually see the movement, which I mean, I love it when animation comes out really smooth and is done like perfectly and stuff like that. Pixar have been a proponent for that for years now, of just making these perfect animated films. This film isn't perfect in that sense, but I like it because it's gone with that feel.
It's perfect in its imperfections, but because it was stylized to be that way, that was on purpose. Yeah.
And I really like that. I'm now going to go into the actual kind of performances, because this film does have some very good performances.
Do you want to give like a rough idea of what the plot's about for people?
Yeah, sure. So it's Cromwellian times. So I want to say that my history's goddamn awful, but think Puritan kind of times in England. So witch trials and shit like that is all about. It's a family of two. So it is Robin Goodfellow and Bill Goodfellow, played by Honor Neefsey. I want to say it's Neefsey. And Sean Bean, and they're English. They move over to Ireland with Cromwell, who's basically trying to tame Ireland. And to tame Ireland, he has to tame the last pack of wolves that is in this forest that is kind of harming the citizens that are there. So Sean Bean's character is basically there as the wolf hunter, and he goes out into the forest. The daughter wants to become a wolf hunter as well. She goes out with him one day, basically sneaks out, and gets caught by a pack of wolves and gets bitten. And when she gets bitten, she kind of gets taken in by the wolves and looked after, cared for, and everything like that. And they tell her that basically she's going to become a wolfwalker. Because she's been bitten by the wolf, in the day, she will be a normal girl and stuff like that, with maybe heightened senses and kind of those little things that a wolf might have. And then at night, she has like an out-of-body experience. Her soul comes out of her body and she becomes a wolf.
Right.
It's a really simple plot in that sense, but it's fantastically put together. The pacing of the film is excellent. Like, I've just explained quite a lot there. I basically explained the first half an hour, 45 minutes of the film. There's a lot of interior stuff that goes into the setting, which I really like. They really do build up the setting, build up kind of Cromwell as an evil character in this film, build up the relationship between Robin and Bill, the father and the daughter, build up the relationship then afterwards with, I still can't pronounce the name, Mev, or Meb, or I can't remember, the actual Wolfwalker girl, the girl with the Irish kind of golden hair, which we do actually have here, the person with the orange hair in the film's poster. She is the main kind of Wolfwalker girl. She's kind of the comic relief. She's kind of overly Irish, overly into kind of being in the wild and everything like that. And I don't usually like performances like this, but I think it works perfectly with this film, having that kind of young naivety of a person who's basically passed on her magical powers to someone who is definitely not ready for it. And it just ends up being a brilliant kind of friendship film between the two of them as they begin to bond.
Well, I was going to say, I'm guessing it plays into the themes of... I'm going to go for another sort of historical animated film, wildly historically inaccurate animated film, I will say. With Pocahontas, you've got this sort of envoy that sort of... And loads of other films have done this as well. The Last Samurai, Avatar, anything you can think of, Fern Gully. You always have that one person who sort of is tries to keep the peace between the two warring factions and help them accept each other's differences. And you know how the story goes. Now, with this one... Different. I was going to say, now with this one, Pocahontas ends with kind of a happy ending, which is not how it happened in real life anyway. But this one, I don't want to go into specifics, but knowing what actually happened in history, I'm guessing that this is going to be a very sad ending to this film. And I don't want you to spoil the film for me, but is it respectful of history? And everything that did transpire, or I guess you have got to tell me if it's a happy ending or a
happy ending. Say that there is a kind of, it's a happy ending for some, it's an unhappy ending for others.
Okay.
In the film, it's not a bittersweet ending. I'd say it was quite a sweet ending to the film. But
in terms of those storylines, that whole type of story that I just mentioned about, is it very tried and tested? Is it a very similar plot structure, or does it do its own thing?
It takes a different arc to that, because I always thought that it was going to go in that route of Robin, the hunter's daughter, being kind of that barrier between the two worlds. But in the end, it ends up being, she finds out basically that the mother wolf, this is a small spoiler, but it isn't a big spoiler. Spoiler, Chris, small spoiler. It doesn't affect the plot too much.
Okay.
And I do kind of need to explain
trusting you on this one. I'm trusting you on this.
That the young wolf, the orange-haired one, her mother's gone missing. It's very, very easy to work out very early on that the mother has been captured, because it's a giant cage in Cromwell's kind of facility and no one's allowed to go near it or touch it. So you do know very early on that the mother wolf has been captured. And the wolf pack wants to leave. The wolf pack wants to leave the region, leave kind of Cromwell's reign and stuff like that, get out of the forest. But they can't leave without the mother wolf. And that's where the film takes that different turn to what Pocahontas would. Because Pocahontas, it's, look, both sides want the conflict. They do. One side wants to protect their land. The other side wants to go and invade. Whereas with this film, one side definitely just wants to leave peacefully, get out and just find the mother wolf and just go. And the other side doesn't realize that situation and is basically holding the one thing that's keeping them from going captive. So it becomes a very standoffish film from that point on. A very kind of intense situation where Cromwell puts more pressure on the hunter. The hunter then puts more pressure on his daughter to stay in line. He doesn't realize that she's a wolf herself. It becomes very confusing in that kind of sense, very conflicting kind of feelings between them and everything like that.
And an animated film is only as good as its soundtrack as well. So it sounds like it's winning in terms of the animation and the characters. What about the music, the musical score? And indeed, I think there was an original song written for this film as well.
Yes. So I believe an Irish folk band called Keela provided the film's original score. It is beautiful. It is beautifully Celtic. It's beautifully Irish. And they have an original song in the middle point of the film, which is fantastic. It feels like, I just want to say, think back to one of those, think back to a Disney film. I can't think of one in mind at the moment, but one where they would have a song in the middle. Like even a DreamWorks film where they weren't singing the song, but there was a song in the background and it just made you feel so much emotion. I'm going to point you straight to Treasure Island, I'm Still Here, Chris.
Treasure Planet.
That's the one. Treasure Planet, I'm Still Here. It's that kind of feel, that one song in the middle, which immediately makes you think, wow, this is really building it up and really kind of getting emotional and stuff like that. And that's what this film does very well. It has that kind of low score in there, and when the action comes in, it really does come through. But normally it's just kind of like that, like 17th, 16th century kind of music with lyres and with like utes and stuff like that. So,
and I guess sort of my final question, because I know you want to go into spoilers, but my sort of final question that I can think of around it, in terms of its messages and its morals, do you think it's relevant for today? Do you think that it's accessible for families and adults as well as children? Which kind of audience is this film geared towards, would you say?
It is accessible for families. It's accessible for a lot of film lovers as well. I really enjoyed it. If I really enjoyed it, the one problem I have with the film is, and I said this to you beforehand, it came out the same year as Soul. And I think this film is, every animated film is going to be drowning underneath Soul. Let's be honest here. Everyone's already decided that that's going to win the best animated feature. That's even probably going to be nominated for Best Picture at this rate.
Well, it's whenever a Disney film or a Pixar film comes out, which, let's be honest, is basically every year. And we get to the Oscars, every other animated film.
We had that 1 year where Into the Spider-Verse came out and changed the game, and then it's gone back to the norm.
But it's like every year, whenever you've got an animation studio that isn't Disney or Pixar, and they're up against a Disney and Pixar film, they may as well go, well, I'm out. See you guys. Like, I'm out. Like,
yeah. I really want to discuss this spoiler with you. But it's so
I haven't seen the film.
I know you can't. Okay, I'm going to have a. Okay, for anyone at home who does not want spoilers, please take out your headphones now. That is Chris there. He can just kind of sit there and watch me.
Give me a thumbs up.
I'll give you a thumbs up when it's done. There is some fantastic moments in this film, especially towards the end. The final fight scene with Cromwell deciding he wants to burn down the forest to basically clear out the wolves is brilliant. Seeing like the mother wolf being shot is fantastic. All of this stuff which you wouldn't usually get in a kid's film, you're suddenly overwhelmed with all of these kind of adult themes. And for anyone who's a fan of Sean Bean out there, Sean Bean turning into a wolf in the end after being bitten is a phenomenal sight. And Chris, I know Chris is going to love this when he sees this. I know Chris is going to love this when he sees this. He really is. And the final kind of point before it gets to the happy ending of those kind of going off and stuff like that, seeing Cromwell being bit by the wolf and then kind of seeing those visions on the cliff and knowing that he could become a wolf himself, he'd rather die than become the wolf, is just unbelievably well done. And that's a very adult theme for a kid's film. So I'm now going to go back to Chris, and I've figured out what I can say to Chris to get him.
Almost missed my cue there. Okay.
I was just chatting about adult themes of the films because there was a lot of adult themes.
Wait, did you say there's a lot? Sorry, I was just turning my volume up. Was there
there's a lot of adult themes with the films.
Okay.
Which come in towards the end of the film. This doesn't really spoil it, but I mean, the film includes deaths. Let's put it that way. And the deaths that are taken in the film and the way that they are presented is not in a way that maybe young kids will understand, but it's a way that maybe, like I'd say 8+ may be able to comprehend in some way. It's a difficult one, but it's very well put across in the way the film is done. But I think that is all I've had to say about this film. This film is absolutely beautiful. Just stunning animation, and Chris will come across this film. We'll talk about it again.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably do when it comes around to award season. Last year we did quite a successful video going through all the animated films being nominated for that category. That was good. We'll do that again.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about this film a little bit more going across then, and maybe we can talk about some of the awesome moments I just talked about in spoilers with Chris over then. But I think that concludes it all. So I'm going to send it back over to Chris with the socials again.
Yep, I will be keeping an eagle eye on this film to see when I have the opportunity to see it, whether I can see it in cinema or whether it's going to be one that gets a screener sometime towards Oscar season. I will keep a lookout for it. But yes, we want to know what you think of. I mean, if you have seen this film, if you're in the same boat as me, or if you're in the same boat as Tayte, let us know what you're thinking of the films at London Film Festival so far. And let us know films that you're looking forward to, ones that you have seen. Maybe we haven't covered some. There are a lot of films. We can't get to them all, sadly. We're doing our level best to try and spread ourselves thin and cover as many as we can. So be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All of that good stuff. And also follow us on our various social medias. We're on Facebook at Cinema Savvy. You can also find us on Twitter at Cinema_Savvy. And if you'd like to pick up one of our t-shirts, go on to TeePublic. A link to that is in the description down below, where we have 3 designs on that store right now that you can pick up. So yeah, that's our review done for right now, or rather Tate's review, I should say.
Yes.
We have films to watch tomorrow morning. I don't know whether I'm watching 2 films tomorrow, or whether I'm just going to get time to get the one in. But we're going to have more reviews. We're going to have plenty more reviews for the BFI London Film Festival films. So if you're interested in them, you are going to be seeing some of these names crop up either next year at the Oscars, or they are going to be talked about when they become more available to watch. And this is the best place to be to follow all of our reviews on there. So thank you very much for everyone that tuned in today, and we'll see you on the next review.